nothing but a dream. A ticket that I won't redeem. I'm not gonna sell my soul to the popular view. A tempting smile is all you need. A kiss or two to appease your greed. The way she sets the bells off in my mind and leaves me standing at the door. It's that love I'm waiting for. And so I stare up at the moon stars. Do not see the passing of the cars. I'm hoping that you'll look at me the way I looked at you. What is it about these red-haired Canadian girls? It drives me crazy. My heart feels hazy. There's something about the smiles that holds the answer. And though I'm destined to be blind, there are some things I know I'll find. And I say there's a reason, there's a sonnet in my pocket. And I don't know how it goes, and I don't know what it means that it's there. But it's there. A lover is the way she smiles. Maybe before she went away. And it doesn't matter if I see it again, 'cause it means that I'm not alone. 'Cause I believe in love, you can see it in my eyes when I smile, when there's tears in my eyes. I believe in love, you can see it in my eyes when I smile, when there's tears in my eyes. Believe in love, you can see it in your eyes when you smile, when there's tears in your eyes. Believe in, I say there's a reason, there's a sonnet in my pocket. And I don't know. Can you hear me? You can hear me now. All right. How's everybody doing? Thanks for stopping by. Um, it is cold. I live in the Midwest. That polar vortex is coming through, and in my shop, even though it's insulated, it's not heated unless I turn on. Let's see. You can actually see it right there. See that little guy right there? That's the only heater I have for the shop. And when I had my little 12 by 16 shed shop, it worked great. But in here, not so much. It's big. This is like a 25 foot by 25 foot double bay garage. I pulled out the old contactless thermometer, and the floor is 53 degrees, which isn't too bad. The ceiling is 62. So that's after running that little guy for about an hour. So it's manageable, and it keeps my glue from freezing, which is the most important thing. Hey Mike, how you doing? Danny Gillespie, thanks for joining. Upstate South Carolina, huh? My grandfather used to live in South Carolina. It's a beautiful state. Alrighty. So today I wanted to talk about a few things, and I set up the computer in a different way so I can show you guys some stuff. Keep in mind I'm running everything on this little bitty Surface Pro. Not the most powerful guy, so we'll see how well it can handle what I'm going to throw at it. So I'm abandoning the Cyclone project for now. I'm not completely abandoning the idea of making your own dust separator cyclone, because I think that there's value in doing that. I really want to break down and buy like a super dust deputy. That's really what I've been modeling my design after. But the main reason I'm dropping this one right here, is because it's too big. It's getting to be too cumbersome, and
I got to that point where I showed you guys a couple weeks ago where I had welded the two sheets together to make the like intake section of the cyclone. And um, you know, I was going to end up having to make two seams, and every time you add a seam to this, you're causing turbulence and you're losing efficiency. And so I was thinking, well, why don't I just use something that's already circular without any seams? And so then I kind of was looking around the shop to see what I had, and you see that little fiber drum down there, right there? I think I'm going to base my design around that shape and that dimension. And so as it is, this cone that I have here is too big for that, and it's okay because I made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot on this cone here, and I know what to do next to make it better. And so it's not really a loss by any means because there's a lot of things that I learned and a lot of takeaways from the experience. I'm trying to get you guys in frame here. So, and you know, the first video I made of making that cone was very popular. Um, it, I had a lot of views with it. But then subsequent videos, there's always a drop off. If you do like a series of videos, usually what I've seen is like the first entry is the one that gets the most views, and then the last entry has the second most views. But everything in between usually gets neglected because people are interested. If they're interested, they're going to check out the first video, and then they just skip to the end, the last video, to see the finished product, and it makes sense. So I'm thinking about with if I ever split a project up into sections, I'd like to try to maybe just do two parts. And that way, and that's only if it's too big to make it just one video. I've been working harder, and maybe it's evident in my last video. Um, I'm working harder at trying to compress everything into a reasonable amount of time for one video. I mean, you don't need to see every single operation. I don't think you do. I don't know. Maybe some people do. But I talked about this last week a little bit. You know, like people like Jimmy DiResta, he will speed up the whole process from beginning to end, and I'm pretty sure he shows everything. But he's showing it to you at like 2,000 times speed, or whatever the case may be. Um, I think I can get better at editing the video to show you guys the important parts and the important steps, and then if there's questions, um, I can answer those questions, uh, and maybe in a follow-up video or whatever for those that are actually truly interested. And if you're not interested, if you didn't have any questions or whatever, you just don't watch that video. So I'm gonna hop up here on YouTube real quick because I'm saying this right on the heels of releasing like a 3 or 4 part video. I don't remember what it was, how many parts it was for that forge that I made, and the forge videos are pretty popular as far as my account goes. The views are decent, or high, as on the high side of what I expect. So I'm going to take a look here. I wish I could share this with you. I don't have a screen set up for it to show you. Um, but all I'm doing is just, I wanted to see if my theory is right about the middle videos being neglected and the beginning and the end videos being the ones that get the most attention. So, ammo can forge. Let's see here. So it was a 3 part series, And kind of like I said, it's not so bad on this one. The first part has 437 views, and then the last part has 421 views. And then the middle part has 100 less views, so 25% fewer views on the in-between part. So it is what it is. I just try to use these analytics to figure out what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong, and hopefully improving in the process. Let me hop back here. All right. Angel Roman from Florida, thank you for stopping by, man. I appreciate you dropping in and saying hey. I got the notification, Mike, that you uploaded another video, and it's on the rotation for tonight. I usually turn in at around 10 o'clock at night and watch a bunch of YouTube, and so you are definitely in the queue for tonight. Angel or Angel? Are you Angel from Florida? Nice to have you here. So that covers what I'm giving up on, and hopefully it's not going to be too disappointing for everybody. Let's get this out of the way. So let me bring you guys. That's good. Sometimes video making is fun. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I get to the spot where I'm gathering all the footage together and putting it in a project, and I realize I'm missing a bunch of stuff, or I didn't, and I have to, I kind of have to cover where I cover the gaps, and that can be frustrating. But I do like editing video. I love it. I love being the creative part of making the videos. I just have a hard time finding these long, unbroken periods of time where I can sit down and focus. Because you're either working or you're doing video, and so I'd say the majority of my time is spent working, whether it's at my regular job or doing the woodworking, and so there's not as much time left over to do video or to edit video or whatever the case may be. And I'm bouncing around just because it's cold in here, so sorry. Alrighty, so let me yeah, me too, Mike. Doing video part of your job. My dreams of doing this full time, are, I I don't know if I ever really had the dream of doing this full time. I've talked about in the past my motivations for um, having a YouTube channel and things like that. It started out just kind of as a way to document for posterity what I do, and the creative process and everything. My grandfather was a great builder, and he died when I was young, and so I didn't have the opportunity to learn from him because my interest in building and making came long after he passed away. And so, if something were ever to happen to me, I hope that this channel would serve as, some type of a legacy for my family, and sharing it with everybody else is also important, but not as important as the original reason why I decided to do this. Yeah, you're doing good though. I mean, I feel like Mike, you're already ahead of the curve with, your sawmill and all that. I wish I could be at that point, or at least be at a point where I could pick and choose things that I could slab up or turn into lumber. So, all right, I'm gonna take you guys. Yeah, I guess that's a great way to look at it. I don't know. I just try to keep that in mind because sometimes I get frustrated when my channel isn't growing as quickly as I want it to, or the monetization is not working like I want it to, and I try to remember why I started doing this, and I'm just going to be myself and do me the way I do me, and not worry about the popularity contest out there so much, and it makes me feel better about not being successful at YouTube. So, all right, I'm going to take you guys over here into my little SketchUp room. Alrighty. And I'm going to try to fit everything here on screen for myself. You guys can see it. I know you guys can see it right now. But I'm going to squeeze this over here so I can see chat still. Bring this up. All right. Alrighty. So let me open up some stuff here. So I wanted to show you guys what I'm planning on working on. All right, so I try to keep all my SketchUp designs all in one folder here, and I believe this one was called Kennel Console. I've been wanting to make one of these for a long time. If you take a look at my other live streams, my earlier live streams, I actually designed this exact kennel on stream. It's a kennel and it's a table with drawers. It's designed to sit up against the wall um, on my underneath my TV, so it's shallow. I want it to hold, the kids' video game consoles up top maybe, and then drawers just for organizing stuff in the living room. So, what were you working on, Mike? Um, I'm always I'm always working on something. It's I draw things in SketchUp kind of to relax. I don't know. I like it. I like making things up. But thanks for that, Mike. Yeah, I like how it looks. I like the design. I plan on using beadboard. So the thing with this is it got more, the more I built it, the more I designed it, the more complex it got. Because at first glance you're thinking, okay, you got rails and stiles, maybe you could use pocket hole joinery, but me being who I am, I don't like visible fasteners. I just do not like it when you can see the way the thing's put together. So I do still have some pocket hole joinery in here, but you won't be able to see it. And where you would see pocket hole joinery, I use tongue and groove joinery, which I've done before. And so let's turn it around here in the back. So this is all beadboard paneling or wainscoting, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to be actual panels. I pulled it out. I had some left over from a previous job. So, this is the stuff that I use. It's in planks, and you can cut it down and make panels out of it and do whatever you need. So, the back panel is all tongue and groove. And then on the side, the upper half is tongue and groove, and this lower rail here, I guess you'd call it, is pocket hole. Excuse me. I'm using 1/2-inch rebar for the cage bars. And then the front, the whole front, all the face frame, I guess you could call it, is going to be pocket hole joinery because you won't be able to see that from the front. And then it's got doors because I have 2 dogs, and so there's 2 compartments, one for each dog. And what else? I have drawers, but I don't think the drawing actually has the drawers built out. It's just, right now, it's just the drawer fronts. And then the way I joined all the sides together, all 4 sides together, since I don't want any visible screw holes. No, Mike, they will not get together. They will not get along together. We've learned that the hard way. They like their own space. They're not. They tolerate each other. My dogs tolerate each other. They're definitely not buddies. So So that's why I made a dual style compartment here for them. The way I'm attaching the front to the back and to the sides is another type of tongue and groove joinery. And I actually, here, let me bring you guys back to the main screen here. So I've already started working on this. This isn't a, this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I've already been working on this past weekend. So I've got parts here. I've got parts over there. I've got parts over there. They're everywhere. I've got parts on the miter saw. I just have them all separated into the 4 sides right now. And I wanted to show you how I'm planning on attaching the front and back to the sides. I've used this method in the past. I like it. One way you could make the legs. Yeah, I hear you, Mike. That's nice though. I'd love it if my dogs got along better, but they don't. All right then. I appreciate the feedback, Angel on Hill. Um, I a lot of people are successful with multi-part series. That's fine, you know. And I just figured there are people that will only want to see the beginning and the end, but then there are people that want to dive deep and make sure they catch all the details. So anyway, when you're making these legs for these credenzas or whatever you want, you can make them. You know, the legs, I wanted to have a leg profile of 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches by 2 inches. But I didn't necessarily want to make a big 2-inch leg all the way from top to bottom. So I decided I could make it out of 2 pieces. So I have these 2 pieces here. But then the question is, how do you attach these 2 pieces? Do you drill a bunch of pocket holes in them and then just, you know, slap one onto the other and call it good? You can do that, but then all those pocket holes are visible. So what I do is a tongue and groove type joint. So let's see if I can get this in camera. So you can see that groove right in there, right? Let's see, this groove right here. This groove is what receives the panel. You know, that wainscoting panel that I told you about. So that's a big groove, and then on this leg, you can see this side is narrower, and then it's got a tongue that runs along the whole length. And then the idea here is that you just glue it together. Let's see if I can get these to fit together here. It's actually going the wrong way. Flip it around. All right. So they fit together. They're still not right, but that's okay. I actually have 2 different parts from 2 different corners, but it shouldn't matter, right? You know, all the measurements are the same. So anyway, then you end up with what looks like a 2x2 leg, but in actuality, it's still 2 pieces that are just kind of butted together. And the glue joint running along the whole length of the leg makes it a heck of a lot stronger than if you did use pocket holes to hold it together. So I've done all the grooves. I cut out, you know, I dimensioned all the wood. Let me show you what I'm working with here. This will all be covered in the video when it comes out someday, you know, but like I said, I'm still sitting on video footage from like over a year ago, so I'll try to get this one out sooner than that. So I have a friend who lives on a farm, and his dad had some trees milled into big old beams, and then the beams would just lay around. They use them as giant wheel chocks for their tractors and stuff like that. And so he was cleaning up the farm, and he asked me if I wanted some of these, and I said sure, you know. And he ended up bringing me like 10 of them, which is great. So I was able to get all the parts out of this frame here, out of one of these beams. So it worked out pretty good. And so I cut out everything. I milled it all. I cut everything to length. And then I milled the grooves. I set up my dado stack and I milled all the grooves into every single piece. So next I have to reset the dado stack and cut all the tenons on the ends of the stock. And when I'm doing a big project like this, I take the time to actually mark out. I don't precisely mark out where all the grooves go, but you know, I'll take a pencil. Man, I'm trying to get in the frame here. I don't know what to do. All right. So I'll take a pencil, you know, and I'll make a quick line down on either side, and then kind of scribble out the middle, just to make sure that I remember what has to go away still. So you can see, like on the end here, it's still marked for the tenon though, not for the groove. And so you know that tells me that it's going to be a tenon, and I still have to drill out. I measured and spaced out the holes for drilling the holes for the bars. That's going to be made out of rebar. I still have to do that, and I'm lucky that the wood that friend of mine gave me is really clean. It's really clear, and it's poplar, if you're wondering. He was hoping it was something harder like oak or maple, and that's how it started out. He asked me to bring one home and cut into it and let him know if I knew what it was, and so I came home and cut it. And it's just that, you know, if you work with poplar enough, you know what it smells like as soon as you cut into it, and that's what this was. And so he didn't want it, and so he gave it to me. So since I have SketchUp up and running here, let me bring you guys back to the screen. I don't know what happened to it. It got smaller. Did that fix it? Yeah. All right. This is why I need two screens. I usually run this live stream with two screens so I can keep an eye on chat while you guys are. Let's see here. Give me 1 second and I will bring the chat up on my phone. Maybe. There I am. Oops, there I was. I accidentally refreshed. There we go. All right. All right, sorry for that delay. So, anyway, so this is the final design. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stay this way. There we go. And I do have a huge piece of walnut. I could show it to you on the rack, but you wouldn't see it. It's underneath all my other wood, but I believe it's a solid piece of rough sawn walnut. It's about 1 inch thick, about 20 inches wide, and maybe 9 feet long. So I think I'm going to use that for the top. I don't know if I want to try to make it a solid piece still, because for, you know, warping concerns and things like that, but I might try it. I think if I can get it sufficiently flat and then seal it, you know, in a polyurethane or some other type of oil finish or something, I think that would help stabilize it. Alrighty. So let's take a look at some of these other things that I've designed. I'm kind of remembering what I've designed, and also things that are still in the queue for me to start actually building. One that I see right now is one I think I designed online or on stream, and it's called a cedar dumpster. So I designed this specifically for my house because the way that my trash cans are being stored right now, they're just on the side of the house in plain view of everybody, and I'd prefer to hide them away, and so I want to build this dumpster basically, and it has doors that open so I can pull the cans out and bring them to the curb. And then it also has a lid that pops up, so that's what we use to throw the trash away. And everything closes up nice and heavy to keep animals out of it. And I have the cedar for this. I probably don't have enough cedar, but I have a lot of cedar. Um, and so I probably have enough cedar to get started. So if you guys are interested in seeing something like this, you can let me know. It'll probably be a summer project, but it definitely would be a good winter project, but it's already too late, I think, to get started on this. Alrighty. Let me see what else. Here was, just for the sake of, since I'm already talking about it, okay, so this this file is called Cyclone. And so back when I was trying to figure out how I'm going to build a cyclone, um, I was trying to decide whether I wanted to use wood or plastic or some other material. And what I ended up doing is this wedge right here would create a cyclone that I believe was 18 inches in diameter on the top and 5 inches of diameter at the bottom. And so all I would have to do was make like 20 of these or something. I don't remember the exact number. And so all I need for the design is just this one piece, and then I just make enough to complete the circle. And so I've got all the angles, built in. So if you wanted to look at the angle, I could pull out my protractor and let's see, remember how to use it. So I grab this, and so this angle is 97.5. So it's a 7.5 degree angle on your bevel. But then you also have this angle here. And so the taper angle is about 88.6. So, again, the bevel would be probably about 1.4 inches, or 1.4 degrees, sorry. Anyway, it was a nice exercise of geometry and math and just figuring out an issue, or like a solution to an issue. But ultimately, I decided against it because even though it's like a dodecahedron shape, polyhedronic cylindrical cone or whatever you want to call it, ultimately it still has facets. And again, I'm trying to minimize turbulence to try to get the most dust collection as possible. So that one had to go. And that's when I got the idea of using the plastic, and I still believe that the plastic will work the best. Alrighty. What else do we want to see here? This is a project that I have all of the video in the can for. I just have not done anything with it yet because it's such a huge project. This is when I wish I had somebody that could edit my video for me. I've toyed with the idea of paying somebody to edit the video for me, but nobody. I don't think anybody's really interested in doing like revenue sharing as compensation for the video. Most people want to be paid on a uh, you know project type basis, so they want to be paid for the video, for the work on the video. And in the long run, if I was super successful, that would be the best for me, but I can't afford to give people hundreds of dollars to edit one video in the hopes that that video would be a popular video. So Yeah, you thought. I think every YouTuber gets to that point where they reach critical mass of their workload and they're like, I need somebody to edit my video for me. And a lot of very successful YouTubers have people that edit their videos for them, and that frees them up to make more. And I wish I had that. And I don't know, I might still find somebody, that would be willing to do it for me. Maybe someday I can get my daughter to be interested in doing that, or doing this with me, or any of my children really. Just my oldest daughter is around the age where I think she could handle it, but that's okay. So anyway, these are what I call farmhouse chairs. These are the first chairs that I made, and they ended up being really comfortable. This was a design collaboration with my client. So I was blessed to have a client that knew exactly what she wanted, and so so I designed the chairs around a standard um, set of dimensions, kind of the standard chair dimensions, and then she wanted to make them wider, and she gave me a lot of input, and I do appreciate the input because then I was able to deliver something to her that exactly what she wanted. And so, they've got a little bit of a slant to them to make them a little bit more comfortable, and the back is tilted a little bit as well. And I made these chairs with all mortise and tenon joinery, which I had never done before. So I was learning as I went. They were all made out of white oak. Um, I know I've talked about these before. I keep talking about them, and I just need to get the videos out so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Um, these back pieces here, or I actually kind of engineered my own plywood, but not really plywood because I used parquetry techniques to make it look like the diagonals were solid pieces of wood intersecting at the middle. And I don't know, I have a hard time explaining it with showing you pictures. You can imagine how hard it's going to be for me to put together a video that makes sense. So. But yeah, Mike, I agree 100%. It would be great to outsource video editing. There are services out there for that, but again, they want a ton of money for it. Um, I mean, even like, I don't know if you've ever seen Fiverr before. There is I don't know what you would call it. It's a website that have people on it, like vendors. It's like Etsy for skills. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but there's a whole bunch of people in a whole bunch of different professions, and they offer their services, and okay, all the services start at $5. Fiverr made your logo. Fiverr made my logo. Well, I made my logo, but I had them convert it to a vector for me because I didn't know how to do that. Maybe if I wonder if it's here. I actually created my logo in SketchUp. Let's see if it's here. I don't see it. That's a bummer. But yeah, I created my logo in SketchUp, and then I took a screenshot of the SketchUp, file and sent it to the guy, and he recreated it in Illustrator for me. And that's how I got my logo. And I think I can show you my logo just by importing it. Let's see. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, but it's on my stickers and it's on my older videos. I don't use it as much anymore. Let's see if it's here. Yeah, if you find a good designer in Fiverr, stick with them because they are good. Or they're hard to find, is what I'm meaning to say. Like Fiverr is full of people, and some of them are really, really good, but there's a lot of, so. And they all are putting out their resume like, I'm amazing, yada, yada, yada. Oops, I don't know where that went, but that's one of my logos. That's the logo I currently use, but again, it's just I just designed it in SketchUp just because it was easy for me. Yeah, me too. I actually paid a few people for a few different tries before I got what I wanted. So anyway, here is that. Oh, there it is. So this is the logo. This was my first logo, and it's actually the one that I use the most. This isn't the Fiverr one. This is one that I just made in SketchUp. Um, that the backwards R with the B inside the barn, is that's like what I want to. I want to make a brand out of that. That's what a lot of people do, especially with like video effects and things and intro videos and things. Um, I had a Fiverr guy make an intro video. If you look at my earlier videos, the intro video that said redbarnwoodworking.net, which I don't own anymore. That was a Fiverr video. But yeah, a lot of those intros are like standard stuff that comes with like iMovie or something. Alrighty. Let me look one more spot here. Check on Dropbox. That's usually where I keep a lot of stuff because I'm moving between computers. I use this Surface Pro 3 for a lot of stuff, but then I have a big computer in my office that I do most of my video editing in, so I kind of keep a lot of stuff on Dropbox because because I can access it from anywhere. So here's this one. This is the one that I had the guy from Fiverr design. I'm pretty sure I did. Come to think of it, I don't even remember anymore, but I'm pretty sure that's the logo. That's my sticker logo. And it's basic. I need to find a more creative person maybe to get something that really catches the eye. The name Red Barn Woodworking came from my old shop because I built my barn in my old house, and that was my workshop. And I don't even have a red barn anymore, but I decided to stick with the name anyway after I moved. All right, let's get out of here. All right, so anyway, so that's the plan for the near future. I'm going to be focused on this table that I'm building for my own family. When I'm building for myself, I'm not earning, so that's always interesting. That usually slows a lot of things down. I found there's a store in town that will sell things for you on consignment, and I'm thinking about approaching them and maybe selling some production type things like you know, cutting boards. Everybody likes to buy cutting boards from craft stores, so I might do that. And I trying to figure out the cash flow situation, which can be it's like the constant struggle. And but while I have the opportunity to make stuff for my family, I spent maybe the first 3 years of woodworking not making anything for myself and just making um, stuff for other people, for paying customers and whatever, because I needed the income to build the shop. Now that the shop is pretty much built out, I have a lot of wants, but I don't have a lot of needs anymore when it comes to shop equipment. So I can slow down a little bit and start building things for my home. And so I just finished floating shelves. I didn't film the floating shelves or anything, but I finished a bunch of floating shelves for my wife. I did a hall table. That was the one that was you could see a few videos back, and now I'm working on this table. Um, so That's the plan. Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to do that. I was afraid. I was afraid to go into debt over the workshop, um, just because I was afraid I wasn't gonna ever be able to earn it back, and so I paid for everything up front. But I didn't learn my lesson. It's not like a way of life or anything because, you know, I can turn my camera around here and I can show you, a BMW motorcycle there that's still on a loan, and it's not even running right now. So it's not like I'm some type of great money manager or anything. It just when it came to woodworking, I uh, I got in on the Jenga craze of a couple of years ago, the jumbo Jenga, those big jumbo Jenga sets, and that pretty much paid for this whole shop, believe it or not. I had an Etsy store and it was busy. Um, but so now that I've got everything I need, I can make just about anything I need to. I'm missing like a drum sander would be nice, just for being able to sand large panels and things. But Etsy's really good. It's very competitive. That's the big problem with it right now is doesn't matter how low you price your stuff, there will be somebody out there that's cheaper. And lately, it looks like Etsy has a lot of, the policy on Etsy used to be everything had to be handmade by you or by somebody, whatever, somebody local or whatever. But there's a lot of resellers on there now, and you can tell that they're just turning around product that's made overseas. And so it does saturate the market, but go to Etsy and type in cutting board and just look at the thousands and thousands and thousands of results. And I got tired of dealing with the hassles of shipping. Um, a jumbo Jenga set weighs like 25 pounds. And so you basically have a box full of 25 pounds of wooden blocks. And the Postal Service doesn't like heavy objects. And you pretty much exclusively work with the Postal Service when you work with Etsy because they have a deal with them and you get the best price and they will come pick up on your doorstep. And there are some conveniences with it, but when it comes to heavy objects, they're not very keen on carrying them, and so they toss them around. And so I had lots and lots of my product go missing in transit, and and I'd have insurance on it, and so I always got my money back. I just can't imagine how, well, I don't know if they do. I don't know if the post office makes enough money to self-sustain because just the amount of insurance claims I had to make on product that they destroyed or lost, you know, they basically I was getting paid for, you know, getting paid twice every time they lost something. So, I don't know. I'd have to either refund the customer or make it and send it again and hope they would make it. So, anyway, the short answer to your question is that if you have a killer product that is small enough to ship easily that nobody else makes, you can make a killing on Etsy. But making popular things and trendy things, that usually is where the market's saturated and you're just a drop in a very large ocean. And that's kind of why I quit selling on Etsy. I and like I said, I got to the point where I had attained all of the equipment that I needed. and then I started focusing on finer projects and furniture and larger commissions for larger pieces. So I guess I'm lucky that I got in. I just got lucky with the whole Jenga thing. That I don't know, it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember. Everybody was buying them, and there was only a handful of us that was selling them. And so I made a whole bunch of money selling blocks of southern yellow pine, was all it was. Not sure about your question there, Bob. What about Atlanta? You looking for somebody that's from Atlanta in the chat? There's only 4 people here right now. Welcome though. Thanks for coming in and saying hey. Um, so, like Dylan or Mike, if you're trying to sell big stuff, I don't know if Etsy would be the way. There's companies that do sell big things on Etsy, and they charge exorbitant amounts of money, and that's actually how I got started on Etsy. I made a doghouse, and it was a really fancy doghouse, and somebody said, "Hey, you should put those on Etsy," and I did, and then it turned out to be too difficult to ship the doghouses. But my first order, she wanted a doghouse and a picnic table and 2 Adirondack chairs, and she happened to be local, and so it worked out, and that's how I paid for my table saw. And so I got really lucky with that first order, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling for my woodworking career. My table saw, I've got a review on it back when it was a new product that Grizzly made. It is a G0771. The fence on it is garbage, or the fence that comes with it is garbage. I have replaced it with a Biesemeyer fence. It was the cheapest cabinet saw, like non-contractor style, that you could buy at the time. It was only like $700. It's served me well. It's a little underpowered, maybe. Thank you, Bob. It's a little underpowered. I'm running a full kerf blade on it right now, and it just barely can cut, without binding or without stalling out. And but it has idiosyncrasies that I'm kind of getting tired of, and so I know I talk about getting a new table saw all the time, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. I can only dream, but everything needs to be upgraded, or I'd like to upgrade. Again, these are wants, not needs. I can get by with what I have, but yeah, and I'm not a snob. I like Grizzly. I like that saw. It's just, it is what it is. It's a $700 saw, so you get the performance of a $700 saw. Um, so Grizzly makes a really nice saw for about twice the price of that, and I'd be happy with that. Thanks, Bob. This is the my souvenir from when I went to Washington, D.C. I went to the National Air and Space Museum, so I like the hat. So anyway, what time is it? 9:23. I'm going to be wrapping this up soon, but if you guys have any questions, go ahead and fire away. If not, I'll just wrap up this video by saying the best way to set up a garage, John, that is a good question, and I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. first things first is you need to get power to your garage. And that's, a lot of people think that, hey, I've got a couple of outlets in the garage. That should be enough. And I don't think it is. And let me show you what I've got going on here. And I overkilled it, but I kind of had a blank slate to work with. Sorry, I'm grabbing my camera here. So let me show you guys. Of course, I don't have my long USB cable on here. Okay, so back here behind the bandsaw, let me get my finger right behind there. You see a little box. Okay. First thing I did before I built any walls or anything is I brought in 120 amps from my main panel into the shop. And that was two 60 amp drops. So those are actually two 60 amp panels right there. And I brought them from the main panel. And so the main panel is on the other side of the house. So that's always inconvenient. But the main panel is on the other side of the house. I put in two 60 amp breakers in the main panel. And then I ran some 8-gauge wire all the way to these panels. And I've got AC disconnects. You can't see them. They're on the bottom here. So I can just, if I ever have to work on it, I can, shut the breakers off, but then I have the disconnects to make sure that the breakers don't accidentally get turned back on while I'm working on the panel. So anyway, I gave you that whole description to explain that 120 amps for a 2-car garage size shop is probably overkill. And it depends on your level of involvement in woodworking. I plan on expanding and getting bigger and better equipment. And so I have one of those 60 amp panels is dedicated to 120, and then the other one is dedicated to 220. And so all my lights, all these lights, I have a ton of these LED lights. Okay, all over the shop. They're all on one circuit because they're LED and they don't pull a lot of power. I ran, you can see the conduit. I ran conduit throughout the parts of the shop that I didn't have access to because the ceiling was already in the garage and the exterior wall was already in the garage, so you can see conduit running along there. But the wall that you see behind me, I have a whole series of videos on building this shop. I created that wall. There's a wall behind it, but I created that wall with some airspace to reduce the noise that my family would hear in the house. And also this wall over here that you see with the door in it, that just sections off the third bay of this garage. But yeah, so yeah, first step I would say before you put up any walls or bring in any equipment or anything is run your power while the place is empty. Makes it a lot easier, and that makes sure you have everything that you need to run your equipment. And then the next step would be to lay out your garage, take measurements of your equipment, and figure out where everything's going to live. And since your power is generally going to be run along the walls, then your equipment is generally going to live along the walls, with the exception of your table saw, because it needs to kind of be away from the wall, so you can place panels and things on it without bumping up against the wall. I also have up there, you see that is an extension cord reel, and that is attached to the ceiling, and that is helpful for anything that comes out on this workbench that needs power, and it keeps me from running extension cords along the floor, because I hate extension cords on the floor, because then anything that I have that's on a rolling stand can't get where it needs to go because there's cords on the floor. So Mike, you are in the process of turning your two-car garage into a shop. How does your wife feel about that? That's my question for you. And then you hope to one day build a barn. I'd love to have like a pole barn to put all this stuff in. I think that would be amazing. And someday I will. When I retire or when the kids are out of the house, this house is way too big for just two people to live in, you know? So I figure we'll move when the kids are out of the house to a smaller home, but maybe on some property where I can have a nice outbuilding that has my shop in it. So anyway, John, if you go to the grizzly.com website, they have a little app that's a workshop planner, and you can use it. You can specify the shape of your shop, and then you can kind of place pieces of equipment all over the shop to try to get the best fit, you know. That's how my old house was, that our garage was only for storage because it was a single car garage, so it was pretty tiny. Um, but we've been pretty blessed with a nice big home this time around. And but my wife told me that she had to still have her space for her van, and so that's what the third bay over there is for. Now I know, I grew up in houses that, I mean, the garage was the storage area, because we had no other storage area in all of our homes. But it is nice to be able to park the van. Um, the truck that I drive is actually a company vehicle, so I just leave it out in the elements. I don't care because it's going to get replaced at like 80,000 miles or whatever anyway. But we bought that van brand new, so it's nice to be able to keep it in a garage and keep it out of the elements, and hopefully it'll make it last a little bit longer. And then my daughter's truck is just an old beat up Ranger, so it can be outside too. But no, I know the struggle with storage space and clutter. I swear, man, it's real. Yeah, detached garage. It does. I think it does help. I think you're less inclined to move things into the garage if you actually have to walk outside to do it. Oh, so you do it for a reason? Is that what you're saying? You actually don't use your garage for cars because of the moisture problem? Yeah, they do. They do bring in moisture. Nah, I hear you, John. You bought your house and you told your wife that the garage was yours and the rest of the house was hers. I don't know how well that would fly with my wife, but it's okay. She puts up with me, painting things in our basement, our finished basement, because it's dry down there, and she puts up with a lot of shenanigans. So, the first thing I did do when I bought this house, though, because I knew I was gonna have this problem with storing stuff, especially like lawn equipment. Where do you put your lawn equipment, right? You put it in the garage. And so I built a shed, um, a small shed, the first thing I did when I moved here. And again, self promotion, I guess. I have a whole video series on building that shed. There's a playlist and everything on my channel. You guys are free to take a look at it if you want. There's nothing super revolutionary there. It's just kind of a standard shed. Yeah, that's the problem I have with just about any garage. Is my truck is about 24 feet long, and most garages are about 25 feet deep. So I don't need that stress of trying to get in and out of a garage all the time in my truck. The van is fine. The van is not a problem. My biggest problem with the space that I have is um, I I try to do too much, and so this isn't just a space that I have for woodworking. I also have, it's also my space for metalworking. I've shown you my metalworking station over here, and then motor working over there in that corner. If I stuck to woodworking, I think this space would be more than enough to get anything done. Um, but I've just got too many interests and it gets in the way. They interfere with each other. Yeah, I agree. Pole barn. I think pole barn's the way to go. They make they use these things called purlins and girts. I don't know if you are familiar with the nomenclature, but you can build a nice outbuilding with purlins and girts, and usually when farmers take down their outbuildings or somebody buys a farm and they don't want that there, you can usually get that stuff for pretty cheap, but then you just need to have the right equipment to lift up all the heavy stuff and rebuild it somewhere else. And you generally have to build some type of a footer. You don't need a foundation like a slab. You just need a footer to support the weight of the purlins and the girts. So my garage is a 3-car garage. It's about 25 feet deep, and I would say maybe 40 feet long. But my shop only takes up 2 of the bays for the 3-car garage. So I saved the 3rd bay for my wife's van. And that was the compromise we came to. And this pretty much, I don't know, it's like tripled, quadrupled the amount of space I was working in before. And so it is been nice. It's just nice to be able to walk around my workbench without having to rub up against things and kind of scoot across and, not catch my pockets on the edges of machines and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's a lot of work. I think milling your template, would you do it? So, sorry, I've been trying to read the comments more just so people that are watching the video know what I'm talking about. So, you said you wanted to build a timber frame and mill all your timbers, but you don't foresee having the time to do that in the near future. And if you had to mill those timbers, would you have to wait for them to dry before you use them, or would you kiln dry them, or would you build the frame green? So your current garage is a 2-car garage, 22 by 22. I guess if you were in a hurry, you would probably kiln dry those timbers. Where do you get your wood from? Do you have a stand of your own, or do you get it just from tree trimmers? Yeah, I know. I've watched some videos. You can build it green, but the timber frame process takes a lot of time. I've watched a lot of videos, and it's definitely an art getting those timber frames together and so they last. So I like the good old just twisted lumber you can get at Home Depot and try to bang it flat and force it into shapes that it was supposed to be in. So I know I wish I had some pictures of my barn that I could show you. Um, because it was one of my earliest accomplishments and it's still one of my greatest accomplishments. It was 12 by 16 and 2 stories high, and I poured a foundation for it. And I did most of the work by myself. I had some help when I poured the foundation. I had some friends come in and help. And then lifting some of the walls into place, I had some help. And putting the roof rafters. I built joists. I built it as a joist system, and had help getting the joists up. And that was all friends. They're lots of nice people that I'm friends with help me out. Let's see if I have it here. If I don't, I'll have to find it another time. Yeah, I don't have it. It's a bummer. Let's see here. We live in the woods. I get them from tree services and also pick them up free from people when trees fall. So, how do you, before I get to your other comments, how do you avoid, everybody here wants money for their trees. Like they want money like for their old rotten trees that have fallen over on their property. I just don't get it. And I laugh, like I have people actually reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I see you're a woodworker. Would you like my old cherry tree that fell over and it's only 12 inches in diameter, but I want $300 for it?" I mean, and I tell them, I say, "Hey, that tree has no value until it's turned into usable lumber, and so you usually pay people to pull trees off your property, not the other way around." But I don't know, they're convinced that they're sitting on a gold mine. Whenever they think cherry or walnut, they just see dollar signs. And you say you've gotten about 100 or so logs from your own lot so far. Okay. So you got a pretty big lot, I assume. And you have a video dropping a bunch of trees on your property. That's cool. I don't think I've looked back in your archives yet, if you already have that video posted. No, I'll have to do that sometime. But yeah, I don't know. I've been struggling with these people that think that they're sitting on a gold mine, you know. Like I had a friend who had a bunch of walnut trees on his property, and he actually needed to remove them because they were encroaching on his home, and they were really old and very large, and um, he removed some of them just to make it safer for his home. And he paid a whole bunch of money to have this company come and take them down, and he saved the logs. And then he asked me if I wanted to buy the logs off of him, and I kind of gave him my whole lecture about how logs are worthless. And so you live in heavily wooded areas, so trees are all over the place. Pine you can get free all the time. Yeah, I understand pine for sure. You do buy hardwood logs from tree guys sometimes, but typically pay about 20 bucks for a standard size log. See, that's nice. I wish I had those connections. But actually I don't right now because I don't have a way to process them, and I would just end up stacking logs in my yard and my wife would get very upset with me. Hey John, I appreciate the comment. Um, I live chat every Tuesday at 8:30 Central Time. So I'm planning on being here every Tuesday at 8:30. So if that's convenient for you, come by because I'll be here and say hey, and you can join in the conversation anytime. I appreciate your participation. So anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, so I told him, you know, that the log is useless. And he's like, well, people tell me that my trees are worth a ton of money all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but are these people that are telling you that, are they people that actually work with the wood? You know? And then I gave him all the steps. You have to take the tree, you got to limb it, you got to debark it sometimes, you got to take it to the mill, you got to pay the mill guy to cut it, and then all that time you're transporting all this stuff back and forth. So you have to have the trailer or the truck to do that. And then you have to stack it and dry it somewhere. Or you can pay somebody to dry it for you. All that time you're spending money after money after money, and you're using up time and resources. And so I think I convinced him that I'm not going to buy it off of him. And they're still sitting in his yard like a year and a half later, and it's a shame. But you get a trailer load of logs for about 300 bucks. That's about 12 or 15 logs or so. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the math, that's less than 30 bucks a log. So sounds good to me. I mean, as long as it's hardwood, I don't know if I would pay that for pine. Pine is so cheap if just buying it in the rough or buying already finished pine. I guess if you want timbers, you definitely would have to buy them as logs, but people advertise tree for free if you cut it down. Yeah, I'm reluctant to do that. Yet I don't have enough experience cutting down trees, and I'm not so concerned about hurting myself, but I'd hate to cause property damage or anything like that. But yeah, hardwood, then yeah, I think that's a good deal. 300 bucks for 12 to 15 logs for hardwood. Definitely a deal, and especially since you have the means to process it. See, that's the other thing yeah. You get more pine than you want sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I believe it. Um, that's my other problem though, is I have no property to speak of. All my property is in my front yard because I live on a corner property, and so I have this huge like city park style front lawn, and then my backyard is this teeny tiny little corner, and so I'm gonna once I get to the point where I'm gonna start milling slabs, if I decide to try to dry them outside, I'm gonna have to be very choosy on what I mill because I'm gonna run out of space quick. No, that's nice. That's a nice deal. If you charge people to remove pine trees from people's yards, you didn't even cut them down, you just took them away. Sounds like a good deal to me, man. I don't know. It just has to do with the area I live in. I live in a town that has a lot of retirees in it, and so they're used to just calling a service and having the service take care of it. So they don't even ask around. There are places like, on Craigslist, you can see those ads that say, "Hey, free wood. All you have to do is cut it down and it's yours." And I have never taken anybody up on that yet. Oh, hey Eric, how you doing? Thanks for joining. I had explained it earlier, and you'll be able to see the whole explanation in the rebroadcast, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. So as of right now, I'm giving up on this plastic cyclone. I'm not giving up on the idea of making my own cyclone altogether, but this project has just been holding me back from doing other stuff, and so I'm not even putting it on hold though. I'm if I resume, it's going to be a whole new one. I've learned a lot what I was doing on this one, and I want to apply it and hopefully do a better job next time. So that's what I'm planning on doing. So when you buy from tree services, Mike, you get stuff like cherry maple, cedar, locust, ash, oak. Yeah. So yeah, that's all great stuff. And I'd love to get my hands on that stuff. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for cherry. That's my favorite. I know it's kind of cliche. I like walnut a lot too, but I think it's a little overrated. But it's plentiful out here. Oh, you do have the super dust deputy. Yeah, I know I know it would be awesome, and I know it would make my life a lot easier. And it's not that expensive. I mean, I think it's a great deal. I just don't have the disposable income for one right now. 175 bucks or whatever it is. Because then I have to buy like some type of a wind filter too to go with it, and that's another who knows how much. So if I buy a wind, it's going to be like 150 bucks. So, but yeah, I'm a true believer in the Super Dust Deputy. I just don't have the money for it right now. Cherry maple. Yeah, I like maple a lot too. Those are the three that I usually buy when I do projects. I have my here, I'll show you my atrocious offcuts drawer here. Ugh. So all my offcuts there, it's full of, let's see what I got here. That is maple. That's red oak. Walnut. That's some sapwood walnut that is probably not even useful. Got some spalted maple. Hard maple. Ugh. Mahogany. There's cherry in there too somewhere. I usually use up all the cherry though because I love that stuff. Oh, thanks for you like the miter saw station. It's still a work in progress. It's low priority, so I don't down there. I have drawer fronts down there, but that's the only spot where I have the drawer fronts, and then I have to put the little back splash board that'll have like a T-track in it or something, and then there'll be doors and a whole bunch of stuff. But that's always back burner stuff because it works now, and once I get it functional, I tend to ignore it after that. Oh, hey Eric, thanks. Yeah, you were following the project closely to see if it could be done. It can be done, and I'm going to do it again. I just the way I explained it earlier um, is I was making too many seams, and so the seams are going to create turbulence, which makes it less efficient and more. I'm trying to make it as efficient as possible. So I kind of went back to the drawing board. I've got a new plan. I'm just probably not going to implement that plan right away, but this next time when I build the new one, I'm just going to make it a single video, and so you'll see the whole project all at once instead of going from step to step. So it'll happen, just don't hold your breath. All right. I'll have to check that out, Mike, on your dust collection system. I mean, $600, yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that's reasonable, and I wouldn't expect. You can see back here all of this 4-inch pipe. I've been collecting, 4-inch PVC over the years, and so I have a lot of. I'm already invested in a lot of this, um, you know, and I think it'd just be probably another $250, $300 to get me going because I already have the motor, the impeller and everything. So really, all I need is the cyclone and the filter. But I need to get I need to get some commissions going to do that. Thanks again, Eric. I really appreciate that you're watching it. I like the feedback, because I never hear back from people whether or not they care, So it is nice to hear back from some people. Why is it Live Edge can run up to $1,500 and you can buy a board for the fraction of the price? Well, so the way that I view it is a Live Edge. Um, it takes a certain type of equipment, um, to make a Live Edge slab from edge to edge all the way down. When that one slab could be cut up into valuable smaller pieces and be sold, and it's easier to sell the smaller pieces of wood. So you're using the whole thing. I don't know, so, and on top of that, it's trendy right now, so everybody's paying stupid prices for slab wood. Um, but that's kind of what it is that there's a potential to turn that slab into a lot of wood that you could probably make almost as much, but the slabs that are sold around here aren't $1,500. They're usually, or maybe there are people that are trying to sell them for $1,500, but you can always find people selling a good, slab for $300 to $800, depending on the width, I guess. But the person that could probably tell you is Mike, Dylan's Woodworks here in the chat. He's got a mill, and I'm sure he makes slabs. Um, but I think it just has to do with the difficulty of drying something that large and keeping it, having storage space for something that large. And so there's a lot of factors that go into the high cost of slab wood. Alrighty. Yeah. It's harder to dry it and to keep it stable, and that's a really good point because you can't just lean it up against a wall and let it dry up against the wall or it'll get a really bad bow in it. You have to keep it as perfectly flat as possible, and you got to if you dry it too fast, then you crack the crap out of the ends. If you dry it too slow, you're just wasting time. You know, yeah. Straight grain wood is easier to dry stack and store for sure. Yeah, I believe it. I've got a couple of small slabs that I made with my chainsaw, that are in my basement drying right now. And I've got I brought them in for the winter. I've got these huge hunks of wood here. The top one is maple. The bottom one is walnut, and then right around there, no, I don't know if you can see it, but that's another maple log. That one's gonna be like a base for an anvil if I ever get an anvil. It's just a shadow, but right there is another one. I made these big cubes. I just used the chainsaw to make giant cubes out of some wall or out of some maple. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. Slabs have nicer and more unique figure that can't be found in box stores. That's true. I agree. Supply and demand. Yep. You sell your slabs too cheap, but you have a lot of them, so you're happy selling them cheap. I know. Maybe I need to make a trip up to New Hampshire sometime. I travel for work, but my boundary is like the Ohio Pennsylvania border, so I don't get up there. But yeah, you're right. Supply and demand, right? If you have, what's the point of hanging on to 100 slabs and trying to sell them $1,500 a piece if they're just going to sit there and take up space? Ah, don't say that, Mike. You're killing me, man. Your most expensive slab is a 22-inch wide cherry with crotch figure for $150. Oh, you're killing me. The things I could make with that. I need to get a new. I've got the big bandsaw over here, the big grizzly 17-inch bandsaw. It's got a resaw blade on it, but I screwed it up, so I need to get a new blade for that. But that's how I made all of that lumber, all of that walnut. I made that with my chainsaw and that bandsaw. So I can process. Oops. I can process small logs. I just can't do the big ones yet. I need to build a chainsaw mill. Yeah, you thought I'd like that? Yeah. I know you thought I'd like that. After talking about how much I love cherry. Oh man, yeah. I'm trying to see what I got the most of over there besides pine. I don't know. I got a whole lot of cedar right now, but it's construction grade cedar. It's not anything nice. And I got that. That was in trade. I got that in trade for doing something for somebody. But cherry is the most of what I have. No, that's not true because I just showed you that huge stack of walnut. I guess really walnut's the most that I have. So. All right, guys, I'm gonna save. This has been great. First of all, thanks for coming in and joining in with the conversation. This has been uh, seriously. This has been what I hoped would happen with these types of live streams. You know, for you guys that are regulars out there, you know, and Mike, I know we've talked about this before. You know, let's try to get something going. I know we say this every time, and I'm sure we'll keep saying it. I don't, you know, Google Hangouts is starting to go away, so we can't really do like a hangout, but if we could figure out a way to maybe live stream um, together, I think that would be kind of cool. So maybe we should do that. Do I have a garage tour video? Well, not an official one, but there is a video, a live stream that I did a garage tour on. I can look it up for you real quick, and I can drop it there in the comment or in the chat there. So I'll send you the link because I don't remember if I labeled it as a shop tour. So let me take a look real quick. I don't put I don't tag my live streams. So it wouldn't show up there. I should tag my live streams, I just don't. I should have done an official shop tour back when my shop was clean. But it wasn't too long ago that I did it. Let's see if I can find it real quick. No, I don't see it. I don't know. It might be the one that's titled First Livestream of 2019. It seems like that's the one I would have done it on, but I'm not sure. If I find it, I'll DM it to you or something. Oh, that was okay. That was John that asked that. Yeah, John. If you go into my playlists and look at live streams, there's one that's called First Livestream of 2019. You might want to scroll through that one and see. I think I did it on that one. Yep. Thanks again, Mike, for coming. Thanks, John. Thanks, Angel. Thank you, Bob. Who else was here? Eric. Thank you very much. Guys, I'm going to call it a day. It's been fun. I'm going to be back next Tuesday, 8:30 Central Time. I hope to see you there. In the meantime, you can catch up on my videos, and I will hopefully be putting one out this week. And so go ahead and you know, I read every comment and I answer to anything that's legitimately a question. So if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll get back to you guys. So with that, I'm going to sign off. So thanks again, guys. I will see you next week. Have a good one. Be safe out there. See you later.
Looking right at you. So cue the sun and let me take your hand. I wish that I could make these words take shape so you can see what an unexpected meaning you have come to mean to me. And I'd take your hand and touch my heart with enigmatic bliss. If I never saw the setting sun, I'd be contented with your kiss. So cue the sun and let me take your hand. So in the morning, you're the first thing to touch my breath. The noonday sun could never reach beyond the memory of your breath. A toenail moon of bronze and silver hangs inside your life. Shows a silhouette against the atmosphere horizon of my life. The thought that you could somehow give the setting sun to me leaves me in the morning light, a door without a key. These words would probably smell as sweet by any other name, but I'm waiting for the door to open and let me see the flame. So cue the sun and let me take your hand, and let me see the way the clouds invade a static sky. Let me feel the tension when your skin is close to mine, when the vast sublimity is fled into the night. Infuse my heart with the way you talk, remind me of the light. Alone and battered warrior returning from the fight. He's seen a king give up his kingdom for his heart and for the light. Shows a picture of a woman with your smiling with your face. That's telling me the setting sun is in that smiling grace. And I'm sitting in an atmosphere, rising kind of light, with my dreams beyond the stratosphere, a razor blade at night. And I've never seen the setting sun or fire in the blue, but I think that when I do, I'll be looking right at you. So in the morning, you're the first thing to touch my breath. The noonday sun could never reach beyond the memory of your breath. It's only a moon of bronze and silver hangs inside your life. A silhouette against the atmosphere horizon of my life. So cue the sun and let me take your hand, and let me see the way the clouds invade a static sky. Let me feel the tension